Welcome everybody to Chef Night.
Hi, thank you guys for all joining us tonight. I'm Beth Ryder along with Steve Ryder and Chef Jude.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining. And I don't know about you guys, but you hear so much about cauliflower, all the things you could do with cauliflower.
Cauliflower.
Cauliflower. Is it cauliflower or cauliflower?
I don't even know. What is it?
It is a vegetable, not a protein.
It is a vegetable.
Is it a starch?
Yeah, not a starch per se. It does have enough sugar, but it's not a starch. You could replace your starch with cauliflower.
That's what we're doing.
The healthy version, right?
And what are we doing with it tonight?
We are going to make a puree. So all those, I'm sure you've seen the TikToks and the Instagrams and the Facebooks of the cauliflower mashed potato, right?
Nice.
So instead of using potatoes, you use cauliflower. I believe it was in season 2 when we did the cauliflower fried rice.
We did, yes,
Yeah.
It was really good.
So now we're just going to show you another way to use cauliflower.
So it'll kind of be like almost potatoes.
It'll be a puree, so it'll have a potato-like texture.
Look. Yeah.
Correct. The feel of the mouth will be similar because of the hardiness of the cauliflower. So it'll be a little more airy, a little lighter than that, but also after you eat it in your digestion, it's not going to be so heavy.
Which is
And
really
what does
great.
it go with?
Tonight,
Oh, my favorite. Sea scallops.
pan-seared sea scallops.
And
that's
anybody
right.
afraid of making those at home? Because sometimes we look at some food and you don't want to ruin it.
Which is true. Yep, which is true. So the sea scallop is a very delicate mussel.
Right.
Seafood's always very, very delicate, and the cook time is very small. So we want to make sure that correct. When we get into that, we'll learn all about the importance of making the sea scallop what you want it to be.
So Beth loves them. I need to learn this, chef. So I'm going to be over your shoulder only when we're doing the scallops.
Okay, and then of
You
course
can learn the puree and the drink and all that, but I need to learn how to sear.
You got it.
And then we've got a drink, and we're going to be lemony tonight.
The gimlet,
yes.
right? So something a little different, something a little lighter, something that's going to complement our dish, right? One of the things that we're always trying to do is take our cocktail and complement the dish. What happens when you consume our cocktail? It cleanses the palate. So then we can taste
like a sorbet.
Like a sorbet, exactly.
See that? I know some.
But we try to pair them right accordingly. Sometimes the pumpkin smash doesn't go over as well as we thought. But
that's all right.
It's all about trust.
Let's get started.
Yeah, let's get cooking, everyone.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, we want to make sure we have all of our mise en place. If it's your first night joining, mise en place means everything in its place. The reason we want everything in its place is to make the process move a lot smoother, right?
Yep.
First and foremost, we have our oven on is at 450 because we're going to be roasting our cauliflower. We're wanting to get a lot of color. We're wanting to extract the sugars of the cauliflower as much as possible, okay? We're gonna use our cast iron skillet. If you do not have a cast iron, that's okay. A normal frying pan will work just fine. If you're using a non-stick, that's okay. Preferably not a non-stick because we're going to be able to create high heat off of this so that our scallop has a little crust. Okay?
Which is right, pan sear.
Yeah, right. So very, very high heat is what we're doing. We have a sheet pan that's already lined with foil for easy cleanup for our cauliflower. I have our cauliflower already cut and ready to go in a bowl, so we'll use this to mix. We have our scallops. Everyone has their scallops laid out.
Okay.
If they're not laid out, what we're going to want to do is first and foremost, if they're still partially frozen, we're going to want to drop them into a bowl. We're going to run cold water on them for 3 to 5 minutes. They will thaw that fast. Okay. We don't want to leave them submerged in the water very, very long because they are spongy. So therefore they will absorb that water content. When we go to sear our scallops, we're gonna wanna make sure that they're dry. I've already laid them out, okay?
So a couple layers of paper towels just to soak up any additional moisture.
Yep, and the reason we want them to be dry is because if there's water in here, it's gonna splatter and potentially burn you when you're searing, because our pan's gonna be so hot and the amount of fat that we're using. We're
Okay.
not frying, but we're pan searing, right?
Got it.
It's very high heat. We got our fresh herbs here. We have our garlic bulb that I've already taken out. I've got it set up. What we're gonna do with this is we're just gonna make a little pop you up,
Oh.
right? So a pouch.
Yeah.
And we're gonna just fold this up with a little bit of oil in there and we're gonna roast it with our cauliflower so that way we're gonna add that to our puree. So
Okay.
we're gonna enhance the flavors of this by doing this piece. One of the things I like to do is take a bulb of garlic and cut it here. Right? So it exposes the garlic,
Mhm.
put it in a little foil pouch like this, drizzle olive oil in there, close it up and roast it. If you don't want to
In the oven?
Yep, in your oven. If you don't want to turn your oven on, everybody has an air fryer.
Oh. yeah.
Chances are everyone has an air fryer.
Okay.
Put this guy in the air fryer. You can do it without the foil. The foil helps protect it from burning.
Kind of steams it a little bit or no?
So it steams it while roasting.
Okay.
Exactly. Which then extracts the sugars
Got it.
at a faster pace without burning the garlic. Because I believe every episode we let you know if you burn the garlic, what do? We start over.
Oh.
Because if you burn garlic in your dish, you'll never be able to
Oh, I
get
see
the
what you're saying, yes.
bitterness out.
Right.
If we burn it, throw it in the trash, start all over.
With anything in that pan.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the pan that needs to start over, yes.
Yeah, because the bitterness from the burnt garlic, you will never be able to.
Recover from.
It won't happen, no matter what you do. You can mask it with anything you want to, you will still taste the bitterness.
Gotcha.
We got our fresh herbs.
Okay.
We have our butter. We're gonna be making a brown butter sage sauce to go over our scallops and our cauliflower puree.
Exciting.
Okay, so first things first, let's get our cauliflower working.
Okay.
We're gonna take our bowl here. We're gonna add some olive oil. We're gonna be fairly generous with this. Not too much at first, right? Obviously, we want to coat it evenly,
Right.
but we want to make sure that there's enough that it's gonna help roast it. So the fat of the oil is gonna help with that process. We're gonna go a little bit of salt and pepper. Not a lot on here because we're gonna add it to taste when we do our puree, right? This is only to help enhance the flavor. Exactly, as it's cooking. Correct. So as you see, we're coating it. And it has a little, nice little look, a little coat, little sheen to it, right? So let's go ahead, Beth, if you give us a little bit more oil here. Because you can see here we got oil, but here we don't. So just do a little dizzle around. Perfect. We're gonna toss this. There we
The other
go.
thing that I always find that really works well is I throw all of this in a Ziploc bag.
And just
You
shake it up.
it around, mix it around, and then pop it back in my bowl.
Yeah, well, or onto your sheet
sheet
pan,
pan,
right?
yeah.
Does the same thing. Unfortunately, with our crew, our Ziploc bag is too small for the amount of
Yeah.
cauliflower.
Agreed.
But so
But it is a
again,
good way to also do this quickly too.
and less messy, right?
Right.
Other piece to that note is you can do this a day in advance, season this with our fresh thyme, salt, pepper, and then it's marinating.
Ooh.
So now when we go to roast it, it's gonna have a different flavor.
Right.
A more enhanced flavor, actually.
All good ideas, things to further enhance it.
So what we want to do is we want, as we got it out on our sheet pan, you can see we have a lot of little stuff and a lot of big stuff. We're gonna want to take these bigger
florets and just break them in half.
Right, otherwise we're gonna have hard and soft.
Yep.
Kind of all mixed in.
Yeah, and we're gonna roast it long enough to where it's gonna puree evenly, smooth, make a smooth texture, right?
Got it.
If we don't, then all these stock pieces like this will be chunky in there. And that's all preference, but we do want to make sure that it's smooth, which is the puree
Part.
portion of it.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Therein lies how it looks like a potato later.
And has the similar texture.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece. So with the puree, it's endless. Add whatever you want to. A lot of the mashed potatoes, cauliflower recipes are all bacon and cheese. And obviously we've learned over the 4 seasons that when you add bacon to anything, it tastes delicious, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Okay, so
Okay.
what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spread this out evenly. I'm leaving this little corner here.
I was gonna ask you, why are we leaving a corner?
So we
Oh.
can, if you could, add some oil in here. It's all, yep. A little bit more. So all we're adding is about,
Actually, more than I was thinking.
um,
Can I do a little more? So it's more, I feel
Nope,
like it's a
nope,
little
that's good.
heavier than
So-
cauliflower.
yeah, well, so see how there's oil in the bottom there?
Yep,
So we're gonna coat this again, right?
that's good.
This is, the
I love
oil
this trick because
helps it from
Yeah,
not burning.
you can use it all the time and very efficient.
So the piece that I was gonna say is roast the garlic like that and just spread it on the French bread or Italian loaf. Delicious, absolutely delicious. You'll probably not finish your dinner because you ate so much bread. That's how good
That's
it
the
is.
downside.
Right.
But it's good.
It is good. So we got a
like
little
that.
speck. We want to make sure that we spread this out some so that it can roast, right?
And I like the pieces are all even.
They're
You
all,
put it in.
yep, you can go ahead and toss that in.
Great.
Go ahead,
Question.
question?
Here we go.
Any tips on masking the vegetables with the kids and grandkids?
Add bacon. Okay, so how do you mask a vegetable flavor, right? Depends on what vegetable. If you're making broccoli, easiest way to mask that, cheese. Everyone loves broccoli and cheese sauce.
It's a good one.
Right. So same principle with the cauliflower. Cauliflower au gratin.
Mhm.
Make a cheese sauce, put it with your cauliflower, bake it, it becomes delicious and nutritious.
Good idea. So it sounds like cheese is a magic kid ingredient.
That and bacon.
And bacon.
Zucchini,
things.
cauliflower, zucchini, yellow squash. Kids typically like carrots, kids typically like celery. Kids typically like peas, which sounds crazy. It's because a pea is sweet.
Hmm.
But to the kid, what we don't really recognize, what's Gerber's #1 seller?
Peas.
Peas, exactly, right? Because it's sweet. To an infant or someone or an individual having baby food, the sweet is what they like. If you notice, if you introduce the fruit first and then try to introduce the vegetables, no go.
Right, they want the sweet.
Give them the vegetables first, then introduce the sweet stuff, right? So a little
Makes
trick
sense.
behind that process.
All right.
So we've got that in. How long is that on?
That's gonna go about 30 minutes. We're gonna check that in about 10-15 minutes. We're gonna give it a stir.
Okay,
So then that way we can caramelize as much of it as possible and not just the top layer of it,
Perfect.
right? So with the other vegetables, how to mask them. Zucchini, yellow squash is great to put into spaghetti sauce. So making like a primavera. With my son making baby food for him, I made cauliflower cheese sauce. So I would basically steam cauliflower, add shredded cheese and milk, put it in a food processor. It's then its own cheese sauce.
Mhm.
And then I would put it with orzo, so little infants or little ones can eat it that much. For 5, 6, 7-year-olds, love macaroni and cheese. You put that on elbow noodles, and guess what? They feel like they're eating macaroni and cheese.
Mm.
Is it Kraft? No, it's a lot better than Kraft. So hiding vegetables in pasta sauce is a really good way to overcome that.
That is, yeah, because the sauce takes over and they won't even realize
They
they're in there.
don't even know that they're eating vegetables. They don't even know that you're giving them a lot of nutrition. That they're like, ooh, this is delicious, right? So there's a good way to do that.
That was a great question.
Yeah. All right, so now moving on to our scallops. One thing we want to do, I'll show you, is we want to remove the muscle. So there's a side muscle everyone can find. See this little side muscle scallop all the way around? It's pretty identifiable. It's white. We want to remove that. So all you do is just pop that guy right off.
Because they're so delicate, you don't even have to slice it up with a knife.
No, because it peels right
Right
off. And this is rubber, so it's chewy. You'll never be able to softly, you'll be chewing and chewing. It's this like the silver skin of beef and pork. You'll chew and chew and chew and chew,
And
but
it's
it'll
just
never
rubber.
break down.
Gotcha.
Exactly. So we want to make sure we remove that. So like I was saying with sea scallops, as they are so delicate, you want to make sure that our cooking process, they don't overcook, right?
Mhm.
So these guys right here, the size of this scallop, I'm gonna say is probably gonna be 5 minutes maximum.
That's what I was thinking.
Because it's gonna be a sear and then a
2 and 2,
sear.
and then that's it for
And,
everything.
right, correct, because the other minute is the carryover cook after we pull them
Right.
off. We'll be able to tell by the sponginess of it. So if it's too spongy as we're cooking, it's already overcooked. The other piece is if you peel it apart, if it flakes across nicely, we then understand, okay, that's done. If it doesn't peel apart nicely, it's not cooked enough, which means it's still raw in the middle or it's been overcooked. So if it's not been 5 minutes, undercooked. If it's been past 5 minutes, overcooked. Exactly. So we got our little side muscles removed. We want to make sure that we pat these dry. And you can see that that bottom paper towel has really absorbed it. We can't see, but at home, you guys are going to be able to feel. When you go to touch them now and they're kind of sticky like, that means they're dry. Okay. You can buy dried packed scallops from the grocery store. It's hard to find. From AJ's, you may be able to find them. And what that means is that they have been, in fact, dried just like this before they're packed. Are they going to retain a little bit of water? Yes, if they've been frozen. If they haven't been frozen, then they will not retain that water. So
Good to know.
we want to pat those dry, right? And you can, I mean, that's how sticky they are, right?
Right,
So you
right.
can see that it's dry.
And you're not seeing them very shiny anymore because the water's coming.
We've taken
Yeah.
the water off. Yep, absolutely.
Ooh, looking good though.
Yeah.
I know, I'm excited. It's one of my favorite dishes.
All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get our brown butter sauce going. Beth, if you'd like to turn on our cast iron skillet there on a high heat. Right. The reason we're gonna turn it on high heat is so that way we can heat it up quickly. As soon as we add our butter, we are gonna turn it down some because we're gonna wanna not burn our butter, right? Remember, it's brown butter, not burnt butter.
There is a
Just
difference.
Like the garlic, if you burn your butter, throw it in the trash.
Starting over.
Start all over, yes.
All right.
So for this, we have unsalted butter.
Why unsalted versus salted? Obviously salt, but was there,
It's easier for you to add salt
then is.
to your dish than to create a dish and say, it's too salty. So
point.
I always work with unsalted butter for that reasoning. Where do these come from?
The ocean.
The sea, salt water.
Okay.
Already,
Incorporated.
salt
As part of
content is already in them.
Good to
Right.
know. I like the idea of buying always unsalted so you can add the salt to your liking. So to me, I think that's a great tip. I don't think I typically think that way.
So I challenge you to buy salted butter and unsalted butter and just put it on bread. If you wanna take a bite of it, okay, I don't recommend it.
But try it on bread first.
Try it on bread, okay? Because you'll be able to know the difference immediately. Oh my goodness, that is.
That's a good test.
You'll know right away what that's like.
Because I usually feel like I don't salt a lot, but if the butter has salt in it, it's already salted.
So, right, and for me, I don't have a salt palate. So I always say, oh, that's good. And someone else will taste it and be like, oh, it needs salt. Okay, so that tells me right away that their palate is a salt palate, which means everything they eat has to have that flavor as opposed to not. I think it's crazy how much people put their plate in front of them and immediately salt and pepper it before they ever taste it. Especially a bowl of soup. And you should always taste the food before you decide this needs more salt or that may need more salt.
Interesting. I always like pepper on certain things, so I always put the pepper on before I taste it.
Because the pepper, you like
I
the
like the
pepper.
pepper.
Yeah, and I'm the same way, right? Just like here, our crew likes the food to be a little spicy. We typically add that already because we already know.
Yeah, with the spice.
Instead of adding it on the plate, we want it to be incorporated to the dish.
Got it. Yep. All right, that's looking pretty good.
Yep, so now we're melting our butter.
Can you fancy with oil?
Yeah, we're not pan searing just yet. We're gonna make our brown butter sage sauce. We're gonna set it to the side. We're gonna use our residual butter in there to then sear our scallops.
So we're not going to be searing them with all this butter.
That is correct. This is just the sauce that we're gonna top
Make it
our
right now.
scallops over. The reason we're gonna do this first is we don't want our scallops to sit for the process that this takes. It's not a hard process, but it's tedious. You have to watch it, you monitor it. You gotta make sure that your flame's not too hot and you gotta pull it off at the right point.
So
'Cause-
right now, we're not seeing any browning. So you guys want to make sure your butter is not turning brown right now, right? So nobody, just so at home, when
Correct.
you guys are cooking, watch.
All
no-
we're doing is melting our butter right now. Right? So now that we got it going, we are gonna turn our heat down to a medium-high heat.
Okay.
And we're just gonna let it do its thing. This takes a few minutes. You'll notice it because the milk solids, which are all the white here, start to turn brown. Once those start to turn brown, we're there.
Okay.
What happens is this pan's gonna retain heat for quite a while, especially our cast iron.
Right.
Yep. If we don't pull it
Always
off,
be careful with handles and touching.
if we don't pull it off at that point where it just starts to turn brown, it could burn.
Okay.
Especially when we add our sage to it. And you'll know, you'll start to see it. We're not there yet. You can see some
Yeah, a
Here,
little bit.
little
Yeah.
bit, but we're not there. What we're looking for is for this here. You see how it's still golden yellow,
Right.
right? We'll start to see it. As soon as this starts to turn brown, you'll smell it. It then becomes a little bit nutty, due to that caramelization. So just continuing to work it. The reason we're stirring it like this or we're babysitting it is because we don't want some of it to get brown before the rest. We want to try to evenly heat all this butter at the same temperature consistently to get the brown, right? So you let it work. We made brown butter when we made macaroni and cheese.
Oh, yes, you did.
We did a brown butter macaroni and cheese. So we did this process, turned it into a cheese sauce,
Yes.
put it over shells, and what a completely different
Application.
concept, right? So it changed our dish completely. So you can start to see it starting to turn
Yeah,
tan.
kind of a tan. Yeah.
Yep, it's getting tan. So we're working.
So right now, if anyone at home is starting to turn brown too fast, what are they supposed to do?
Turn your heat down. If you're brown right now, turn your heat off.
Okay,
Because we want it,
because we don't want to ruin anyone's.
we want it
butter
to
stuff.
slightly cool before we add our sage.
Daniela, did we have a question?
How's everybody doing out there? You guys keeping up?
Let's take a peek at our cauliflower. So our cauliflower is roasting nicely.
Oh, wow.
You can see that the moisture is being released, all the steam coming off. All we want to do is, again, make that mix, right? So that way we get this color consistently around all of our stuff. The edges are going to get caramelized faster because there's less moisture out here than there is here. So that's what's going to cause the edges, like coconut, to get caramelized faster. So we just want to stir it around, get it back in, let it do its thing. The garlic's doing its thing on its own. All right, so see now how we're just barely getting brown?
Yeah.
Okay. You start to smell the nuttiness,
Yeah, it
right?
starts to smell a little bit different.
Let's pull it off the heat. You can see how brown it is, right?
Right.
Which means those milk solids. So as we continue to work this a little bit, it's still going to continue to cook because of the retention of the heat.
Chef, will using ghee give you the same result?
So the answer of using ghee, no. The reason being is there's no milk solids in ghee. Ghee is clarified butter, which is melted butter that has extracted or
Removed all the milk.
removed all the milk solids, correct? Okay, so you can see it now. It's a good brown color, right? We've turned the heat off. We don't want to add any more heat to it. You can see a little on this side here where it's kind of still a little golden, but it's, as you see, as we're working it around still, we're going to be able to achieve that brown butter, right?
Yeah, that smell is it's such a good smell. But you know when it's at the right.
Make this and put it in chocolate chip cookies and tell us what you think.
Oh, it makes the cookie better.
Oh my goodness.
Really?
Oh, wow.
So you use this type of butter instead of just putting the butter in there?
That is correct.
Oh, well, that's a nice little trick.
Brown butter chocolate chip cookie. Delicious. If you're feeling crazy, throw bacon in there. I'm telling you.
Bacon.
Bacon chocolate chip cookie, yeah. Never
With a
had
brown butter sauce?
with a
Brown
brown,
butter.
yes,
Wow.
absolutely.
That would be decadent right there.
You're-
You're gonna just gain 20 pounds by
Your
eating that.
guests at Christmas are gonna go, what are in these cookies? Right? All right, so let's let this cool a little bit, right, before we add our sage. The reason being we're gonna cool it, I'll show you, is because our sage is full of water,
Oh,
liquid. What happens when you put liquid
gonna splatter.
into fat, hot fat? It is going to become, yeah. So what'll happen, and we only have a little bit, but you can see here. So
I can hear
imagine this times 10, because we would add a whole bunch of moisture in
all at
one
once.
time, right?
Yeah, I could actually hear it.
Yeah, we can see.
Oh, yeah, you can see.
Yep.
Yep.
So we want to make sure that it cools slightly, not a lot, but just enough,
Just enough to not be.
because we want to be able to extract the oils of the sage and get that into the butter, right? So let's
Interesting.
peel some of our sage, so then
Just
that
learn
way
something new every day.
we can get that ready to go. So by the time we're there, we'll be ready. So all I'm doing is taking our sage leaves and popping them off. We want to make sure we get most of the stem off. The stem is very hardy. We don't want that into our sauce, per se.
Sherry Rosenberg said Jet Tila and Ali Tila have the best recipe for brown butter cookie with a hint of salt. Make them all the time.
Delicious.
Well, share that recipe in the chat box, you guys. We'd love to see that for everybody that's on tonight.
Yes.
That would be fabulous.
And then you're gonna add bacon.
Really take it over the top.
Oh.
Add that 20 pounds.
Oh my. Add caramel chips to it. Don't even get me started. Don't get me started.
That's gonna be a crazy cookie.
It's gonna be amazing. So it's same thing. Imagine doing the brown butter with an oatmeal raisin cookie or an oatmeal scotchy, right? So it adds this rich, nutty flavor that is so complementary to what you're trying to do anyway. It's just fantastic.
Sounds like some good holiday cooking
It
coming out.
does. Sounds delicious. Kind of puts you in the, you know what, it really gets you out of that Arizona summer mood.
Seriously,
Yeah.
because I am just grateful that we're having better weather. We can actually open windows at night and doors, sit outside.
I think when
The worst is over.
when you're a resident of the Valley of the Sun, you look forward to opening your doors when the sun goes down,
Seriously.
right? So all we're gonna do here, we're not really looking for a chiffonade, right? Remember, that's where we roll it,
Right.
chop it real thin, but we are gonna try to get it as chopped as possible, right? So all I'm doing is keeping it bunched. Doesn't have to be minced per se, because we do want to be able to get some of that sage on our scallop. So you get a bite of that sage when you're eating your scallop. So it's not going to be super fine, but it's going to be chopped
Yeah.
enough.
And
right?
it really releases the aroma. I mean, I can smell it so much more once you started chopping.
Sage is very, very pungent, so you don't have to use a lot. For this application, we want to use enough.
Smells amazing.
Someone said we need to start adding desserts to chef night.
So back in season 1, we learned that Chef Night becomes a 4-hour episode
A 4-hour tour.
with a precursor video for that, just because desserts are a little more time consuming. So we try to nail it down to an hour's worth of what it'll be.
So that you guys can eat dinner before 10 o'clock at night.
Correct. So you see, our butter was still
Wow.
hot enough.
We got the foam.
Yep, but it didn't splatter, right?
And it didn't go over. I mean, didn't.
That's
yeah.
the key. If we were to add it right when it
Look
was
at
hot,
that,
you
it's
see
just
how
churning.
much?
Wow.
See how much water is now being extracted from
That's
that?
amazing.
That's a key piece to it. So you really want to monitor that.
Yeah, I mean, that really, it changed the whole consistency of it.
It'll
Come
so
back
all this is moisture that's evaporating. As it's all evaporated, it'll go back down to the consistent butter
Got it.
stage. But this is the process of it. So if you let it cool too much, then you won't be able to extract the oil of the sage. So as you can see how brown our
Yeah.
butter is, and we are able to extract the oils. If we can find, see how green our sage is
I know,
still?
I noticed that. That's weird, right?
So if our butter is too hot, we could burn the sage.
But it's a little green in there. You can
It's,
see it.
yeah, you can see how green it is still, right?
Interesting.
So as you saw, all we did was stir around, let it do its thing, and this now is our brown butter sage sauce.
Chef, can you refrigerate the brown butter?
Yes, you can.
Ooh.
You can leave it on the counter, technically. The sage has moisture in it, so it'll stay on the counter for a few days. If you put it in the fridge, it'll last a long time.
Do you put it in like a Tupperware?
Anything you want that's not going to melt when you put it away. One good thing that
So maybe glass.
Yep, what you can do, which works good, is the amount of butter that we made was probably going to be enough for who we're serving. But if you have leftovers, let it cool down. So put it in a container and then put it into parchment or wax paper and make it into a log. So then that way you can make dishes. You can sear some chicken, throw a little
Oh.
chunk of this brown butter sage into there. You could do a beef, pork, So anything that we're gonna pan sear or whatever, you wanna make it a little more. Chunk a little butter in there. And
Is this
base.
something you could actually buy? Could you buy it?
I have never seen brown butter sage to purchase.
It seems kind of like that would be a thing.
We got a new company going.
I'm just saying. There's all the people like me that, maybe don't have the time.
Make it easier,
Yeah.
right? And what we saw, it's pretty simple.
It is pretty simple.
And for the holidays, great to add to sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes. I mean,
pretty
chicken,
much
pork,
everything.
steak. You could add it to fish if you want to, if that's what you're trying to accomplish. By all means, you could do that. We're adding it to sea scallops, so it's gonna pair well, just fine.
Great. All right. Are we thinking with cocktail time?
I was just gonna say,
Is it time?
I think I heard
Is
somebody's
anybody else already
timer
making
going
it?
off. But let's make our gimlet, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay. So we're gonna need a shaker. Move these guys out of our way. Real quick, let's poke our heads at our cauliflower. See how it is doing. It's doing good. It's looking good. We're starting to get some caramelization. We're losing some of that water content now, which is good. We just want to give it a nice little stir.
The other night,
Our oven's at 450. If you want to speed up this process, you could put your cauliflower in a bowl with a little bit of water, wrap it with plastic wrap, steam it in your microwave, broil your cauliflower. We just cut our cooking time by 1/6 of the amount of time. The process is a little different. Are you going to be able to achieve the same flavor? Not the same, but it'll be very similar.
Good to know.
Wendy said brown sage butter would be great on a turkey.
Yes, brown butter sage turkey would be absolutely delicious. I agree with that. But you want to be careful because you don't want to burn that butter again. It's a key piece to it. So with it being in the oven, if you're going to continue to baste and baste and baste, I would wait till
The
towards
end.
the end of our cooking process to then add that brown butter.
Otherwise, it's in there a long time.
It's already brown, so the point of it burning is gonna be a lot less time and temperature than it would be if we were just to make a sage butter and rub our turkey.
Good.
Is there a code for this thing?
I swear, sometimes I can't get that thing off either. I don't know if it just gets sticky or what.
No, it's just how it gets suctioned on there and then it's all good. Okay.
Oh, bartender, who's the bartender in the crowd? Does have to hit that, it should be cold. I always see him hit it.
Yeah, whack it. All right, so we have our fresh basil. Says to muddle it, so we're gonna do that. I'm gonna roughly chop it first, just so then cuts our muddling down.
Right, because there's a lot of muddling that goes on.
Yeah, and all we're just gonna do is rough chop, right? So all we're gonna do is just break it up some. The muddling all goes down to breaking the oils up. Like our Moscow noodle. Plus, I don't wanna lose any.
Right,
So if we can see, look how much
wow,
oil from,
just muddling it.
yeah, just doing that. So we break all that up. If we can see inside of there. There we go. What the difference is. Smell
Wow.
that, right?
I mean, I can smell from here. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Release those aromas. So then we're gonna add our ice.
Has anybody tried that yet? You guys, anybody jumped ahead? Started the cocktail? I'm excited to try this one.
We had 3 already.
They've had
Three cocktails?
I love it. I take it they're good.
I'm gonna say, hopefully you're not driving. And that includes a golf cart for you real Verdi.
Golf
just-
and theater.
I'm just looking after you, that's all. Alright, so a couple things. Citron, vodka. I was persuaded by our behind the scenes
Orders.
camera person tonight that fresh squeezed lemon would be much better. I says, are you crazy? And she said, no. I says, okay.
Fresh squeezed lemon versus the
The
lemon.
Seagram.
Okay.
So all I did was, I'm only doing the half of the fresh squeezed lemon. And as you saw, I used my famous hand strainer.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Make sure you don't catch any dentist bills by someone chipping a tooth on your cocktail. You know what I mean? You want to make
Absolutely.
sure that you be aware of that. Okay. We're gonna do a little simple syrup here.
On Lacquer said the Lacquer group is 3 deep in.
All right, Tom.
That's what I like to hear, Tommy.
I can't wait to try mine.
Sounds like a fiesta. We're going to add some top shelf vodka. Makes it a little bit smoother. So we're making 2, right?
Yes. I need ice in these, right?
Yep, we can ice those up. Since we're making 2, I'm gonna go ahead and add a little more lemon.
Taking a minute.
This is a personal question. When it comes to your cocktail, do you guys prefer limes or lemons?
Depends on what you're trying to achieve. So today we're really trying to pair the lemon and basil together, which is a great combination of flavors. If we're doing margarita, obviously the lemon, the paloma,
You mean the lime.
the lime.
Yep.
The paloma, we're doing a lime as well. All I'm doing is cutting us a garnish here. Say we're gonna need a little more simple syrup because we're making 2 and not just 1. Our recipe is gonna call for a whole ounce of this.
Not a sugar.
That's a lot of sugar. We're gonna watch our figures.
Less sugar.
We're gonna not go so much. What's it? 30 shakes.
The magic number.
I don't know why. It's just the
The way they say it, do it that way.
it's the chemistry behind it.
Oh, it looks delicious.
You want me to do the squeeze or no?
Do one on the rim and one on the squeeze, maybe? I don't know.
No, I wouldn't go that route, but
Yep.
I would say squeeze
Squeeze, sure.
just a little. There we go. Like a little stir there.
Smells good. See what we think.
Well, for
Cheers,
the Lacquer
everybody.
group, cheers.
We're gonna catch up.
Put in ketchup.
Very good.
Okay. So I will have to say,
Lemony.
but it's not bad.
No, it's good.
I would say that it does complement the vodka, the basil.
Mm-hmm.
I think my non-measurement of syrup was pretty good
Yeah,
because it's not too sweet. Exactly.
Right.
That's one of the things I would be concerned about.
How do you guys like this? I think it's a great summer drink.
I'm willing to bet that a gimlet is that much syrup because of it being a sweet dish or a sweet cocktail. Sorry. Okay. So now moving right along.
Okay.
Let's take a peek at
Onward.
our cauliflower. Ooh, look at that, looking good.
Wow. Well, we can start to get some brown.
Looking good. We need a vessel.
That's all for brown butter?
For our butter. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this and dump it into a glass dish. We are then going to take our spatula And make sure that we try to take out all of the sage leaves, because we don't want those to burn while we are
Oh, pan searing?
searing our scallops, right? So if there's a little residual, totally okay. We just want to make sure that there's not big chunks of sage in there, because we don't want that to burn.
You need to wipe the side.
So we don't catch on fire.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Just thinking ahead.
So let's take a look at that there. Brown butter, right? What do you think of that?
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so
Does
we
it
want,
look like that?
yep, we want to put this in a spot where it's gonna be able to stay liquidy, right? If we have to zap it in the microwave, we can do so. I feel like if we leave it just off the stove here, there's enough heat moving that that's gonna be okay. All right, we are going to plato. Okay, we're gonna need some more butter.
A lot of butter in this dish.
Well, this is only for the fat to sear, right? So it's not like we're gonna add the amount like we did last time. So about a tablespoon we're gonna use. Get our pan going.
What are you turning that on now?
I'm gonna start with hot,
Okay.
and before we add our scallops, I'm gonna turn it down just slightly, so a nice medium high heat. The reason is we want it to be hot. I mean, if you feel
Yeah, I
it's
felt it was.
still warm, right?
Yep.
So
And well, this started melting the minute you put it on.
yeah, which means we're not gonna have to sit here and wait for it to heat up too much.
Right. Which is the benefit of the cast iron.
Right.
You didn't lose all that temperature by turning it off.
Which is huge, right? All right. For these guys, we're just gonna lightly go over the top there. This guy's not producing as what I would like. There's one in here.
Someone said we could try the recipe with Kerrygold garlic and herb butter.
What was that question again?
Kerrygold garlic and butter.
Ooh, with the scallops. I tell you what, we'll try this recipe with sea bass and we'll use that butter. There we go. Okay, it looks like our pan's nice and hot here. We're gonna make sure we have our tongs. We may need a spatula just in case. We probably shouldn't need it. I'm gonna take this little guy here just to see where we're at.
Kind of our tester.
We're not there yet, right?
Right.
It's getting there. What I'm looking for is for this to immediately when I drop it, because we want to create a crust.
Right.
Exactly.
That's what makes it,
The scallop,
Yeah.
the scallop.
it's
Yes,
the pan sear on both sides.
that is right. Take a peek at our cauliflower. Let's give this a nice little toss while we're waiting for our pan to heat up. Yeah, let's you want to do that before we do our scallop, or?
Yeah, we're gonna make it 2 minutes, very quick.
Nope, you're good. I'll just reduce our heat.
We're gonna just talk real quick, do our quick market update.
And now to a commercial break.
So guys, here's the deal. We have so many people that say, Steve, Ben, we have a really, really good interest rate, like 2.5, 2.75.
Right.
What should I do? I hate to sell it, but I've got lots of equity. Unless you've got a rich uncle, a rich relative, for building wealth, second to inheritance, meaning if you have someone that's rich and they give you the money, great. Second to that, you build wealth by real estate. So we're going to teach you how to do a blend rate so you can still buy a brand new home, still get a 3.99. Rates have kind of bumped up a little bit right now, 6.5. Builders are still buying down the rate. We'll do a second mortgage for 15 years. You have a 2.75 first, and then what you get is a blended rate. That blended rate is going to be, I just did it, it's about 4.99. And with today's rental rates, guys, you can have a positive cash flow. Now, here's the deal. A lot of people say, Steve, I don't want to rent my house.
A lot of people say that.
We have a program that's a lease with an option to buy. It's a 3-year lease with an option to buy at the end of year 1, 2, or 3. Now, the good thing for the landlord, the seller, you get better than market rents. They take great care of the home and they typically don't buy it. So 3 years later, you haven't had any vacancies, you get above market rent, and you've built huge equity. And then Beth will help you with some of the secrets like cost segregation and some of the other things you might want to do. So guys, it's not always about selling your property. Sometimes it's about keeping it.
Exactly. And that is why we want you guys to give us a call. We want to talk about it. And just because you've outgrown your home, you want to downsize, you want to upsize, you want to make a change, just because you want to make a change, doesn't mean you shouldn't keep your existing, especially if you qualify for both. So
Oh, yeah.
we'll
They'll
definitely-
use the rental income, so it won't count against you guys. So
absolutely.
perfect time. We'll explain all that to you.
Have a, let's get cooking again.
Let's get cooking.
All right, looks like we've got some Parmesan cheese.
I was just
Noah.
trying to keep up with the pace of today and shredding some of our Parmesan for our roasted cauliflower puree. But our pan is ready to go.
Let's go.
All I did was I cut it off because I didn't want to burn the butter.
All right.
Okay, so these guys are gonna be fast, really fast.
Okay, so we were on high, then we're gonna turn it down to
Like a
medium.
medium, yeah.
Okay,
We want to be able to retain the heat.
all right.
What we really want, 2 important keys, that we retain the heat of this pan. 2, we don't overcrowd the pan. As we learned when we're searing anything, if we add too much to the pan, we add too much moisture, we do not get the sear that we're looking for.
Okay.
Especially when we're dealing with this, creating the crust, less in the pan at a time is gonna create the crust that we're looking for.
All right.
Let's get our little test scallop.
Oh, much different.
See that sound? Okay, I think let's roll. So what we're gonna do.
We never want a crowd, right?
Now. So we're leaving enough space in there.
I'm gonna do this for you, honey.
All right. Don't crowd the pan.
And you're
Rule number 1.
you're gonna have to help with the brown butter. We got this. Oh, they're already looking amazing. They're looking like they're ready to be
Not yet.
seared on one side. Not yet. Don't flip them yet.
Nope, don't
It's
do
like
it yet.
2 minutes.
It's not, we're not even at 1 minute yet, yeah.
I am enjoying that drink though. The drink is very good.
The lemon and the basil together. huh?
Together.
Yeah.
I really don't have lemon drinks like ever, so kind of a difference.
Well, and it's not a martini, right? So it's
Right.
different. It's not as stiff. And like you said, it's cooling, it's refreshing.
Very much so.
That's a big piece. So we're gonna go ahead. See that crust on that one side there? That's what we're looking for. See that?
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for. You can see our pan is not as hot over here as it is over here, which is okay. But you notice all the water
Yeah.
that we're losing from our scallops, right?
Even though they were patted dry, you know,
There's
they
still a
have
lot of
that
water. Absolutely. So I'm doing is just moving them around, trying to get them out of that water spot.
And in a restaurant, everybody, this is, you know, this is a $50 dish.
Oh, hands, you're not going anywhere and getting scallops for less than $50.
Right,
Less
exactly.
than.
I mean, this, you're making at home for a lot less money, a really 5-star restaurant quality.
Ocean 44 is gonna charge you $79 for 3.
Right?
Yeah.
And usually you do get 3.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 is typical, 3 to 4, I would say sometimes 4, depending on the restaurant.
So these aren't the U10s. The U10 means that there's roughly 10 scallops per pound, which means they're a little bit bigger. They're like the size of a silver dollar, and they're a little thicker than this.
But they're not double the size.
Not double the size, no. Well, sometimes
Maybe.
you might find one.
If
So
you
it'll
found
be
a little one.
That'll be a large scallop right
Right
there.
there.
Yeah, that's not even that size at all.
No.
So if you can see how we're losing some of the fat,
Yeah.
we're gonna wanna pull these guys out of it. So it's firm, it springs back a little to touch. We wanna get those out, because that way you don't wanna overcook them.
And they still are a little warm, so they're gonna continue to cook a little bit, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll carry over. Yep,
So,
no big deal on that. Let's turn our heat low, because we want to check this. See where we're at, see how we're getting some good caramelization here. Look at that. Ooh, so all I'm doing is I'm just pinching
just to see if they're soft.
soft enough, and we're almost there, literally so close. So let's give them a stir.
Little hot. Those are great.
Nice caramelization on there. Some good flavor. Back in. Let's do another round of scallops.
All right, while we're waiting for our cauliflower.
So all I'm doing is I'm going to scrape off some of the sugar from that. So that way we have a cleaner surface to sear again, that's all. Because if we continue to cook all this, it's just gonna burn, and we don't want to do that. We don't need to get all of it. Most of it we want to try to get. So get that out of there. We'll then return our heat up so we can sear again. I did not, there's still some residual in there. So we have to take any out. And it didn't really absorb too much of it. So that's okay. If you need to add more butter, go ahead, add a little bit more. You're not gonna add a whole lot. Maybe
Half a
I'm
table.
gonna say half or a quarter of a teaspoon should be enough. We got a real quiet group today.
I know, where's your question? How are you guys doing with cooking the scallops? And is your cauliflower ready yet? Are we all kind of at the same level? Or is someone already done? Beat us to the punch.
Jerry said there's nothing better than a seared scallop.
It's
It's
pretty
good.
high up on the list, that's for sure.
Absolutely. When I go out, I will order it if it's on the menu because it's just not something we cook at home.
Are you saying I don't cook these scallops at home? I'm gonna start.
All right, you're gonna learn how to do, you've learned how to do that.
I'm learning. You helping with the butter?
Can help with the butter.
All right.
Looking good. Yeah, we're waiting for that crust, right?
Right.
That's the big piece to it. And this is one of those ones, it's a tedious process, but boy, at the end of the day, what a world of difference.
I think pan searing for fish, even steak, it is the best way to cook. Hands down, it keeps the moisture in.
It really is. So like a steak, we've learned, or chicken, even the
Absolutely,
pork.
yeah,
If we sear and finish in the oven,
it's amazing.
you retain that moisture in the muscle tissue, which then keeps your end product nice and moist, right?
Absolutely. And we've learned so much that we can do a lot of this in our own kitchen. And having the right tools makes a big difference.
Huge.
I think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think what we've learned throughout the seasons is that the versatility of everything that we've done. We can mix and match. You could take what you prefer. If you don't prefer scallops, you could use sea bass,
Shrimp,
shrimp.
yeah,
I mean, I love sea bass way too.
you could do little chicken tenders in the same principle, right? So, yeah, whatever your tastes are, and if you don't like it, or if your dietary restrictions, a lot of people have dietary restrictions. This is not something we can take all these ingredients and apply it to something different.
Right.
If you're a vegetarian, we could do this with eggplant,
Oh,
and now we have a vegetarian dish that's going to be very, very similar to this process.
interesting. I never think of eggplant. I'm not a fan, but I understand it. It's definitely a good protein filler.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is asking, so I assume the second batch takes quicker than the first?
Not necessarily. It depends on how many scallops you're putting in there. So if we cool our pan down because we put too many scallops in, then it might take a little longer. We might have to let the pan heat up again a little bit more before we start searing. Because the key to it is to not overcook the scallops while getting the crust on. That's the big piece to it. All right. So let's let these guys rest. I'm gonna go ahead and cut off our heat.
Yep.
Let's grab our cauliflower.
Now it's time to finish it up. I was gonna say, yeah. I can't wait to see that garlic too, because the garlic, it's just been sitting there by itself, roasting away. That's a little hot.
Don't try this at home.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what are you doing? Not that you don't work in a kitchen. Whoa, that looks amazing. I love that idea right there. That is a game changer for
It's
garlic.
huge,
Huge.
huge.
So that's the best tip of the night for me.
Yeah,
That's something we don't do.
and it goes on and on and on for whatever you want to use
Right.
it for.
Absolutely.
Let's grab our food processor. Go over to our working station.
Let me move that drink out of the way.
Go there. Grab our plate to get it ready. Okay, sour cream. grated Parmesan. Just do a little bit more.
And you're doing it on the thicker grate,
Um,
thicker,
yeah, it won't really matter.
Is
It's
it?
gonna
Okay.
blend in there anyway.
because that's going in with cauliflower?
Yep.
Which I love Parmesan cheese and potatoes, so it'll be great in the cauliflower too.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a great texture, great flavor.
So that herb butter that you were talking about, recipe of the Irish gold butter. Boursin cheese is another great replacement for that exact recipe. I always add boursin to my mashed potatoes because of how delicious it is.
Boursin?
Boursin cheese, it's an herb cheese.
Huh.
Comes in a
I don't
little
think-
square box. I
Okay.
think we actually may have made mashed potatoes on the show here with boursin.
I don't think so. I mean, I'm just not
Remembering
recalling that
it?
name, yeah. Maybe, we probably did.
Alright, I'm not wanting to overfill this and I'm already at work.
Okay.
So with these guys, I'm gonna hand pick some of the roasted. Some of the ones like that. Some real flavor going on. I could just eat this stuff plain, it's so good. Alright. We're gonna need our spatula. We're gonna need a little bit of sour cream.
Chef, what other vegetable can you use instead of cauliflower for this recipe?
For this particular recipe, a potato. Mashed potatoes.
Mhm.
To get what we're trying to achieve, it's really tough. You can replace it, I mean, as far as like. With the scallops. You can't, I mean, even eggplant, it will be mushy because there's too much water
Right.
content in it. Mushroom puree, same thing, it's gonna be too much water content to be able to achieve what we're looking for. You could do broccoli, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Cause it's almost like doesn't work together. I mean, you almost need something like a potato, which is.
So the cauliflower is gonna be able to adapt. We're gonna be able to incorporate these other flavors into there that it's gonna take on very, very well. As opposed to broccoli, it's going to be very bitter, very pungent, right? So we don't wanna do that. So at first, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna pull. We're going to add a little butter. We're going to add our cheese. Go ahead, Beth.
The whole thing?
Yeah, let's start with that.
Sherry said, I love boursin cheese. I add it to a pan with cherry tomatoes and let it cook away. Great sauce.
Ooh,
Just let
that's a
it,
great update.
just let it reduce down with cherry tomatoes. Yeah. Add artichokes, red onions, put that over tortellini. Dinner in minutes.
Ooh,
So I'm taking our
are
fresh
you
thyme.
taking that down, Mr. Ryder?
Yeah, notes, I'm taking notes.
Some fresh thyme in there. And all we're doing is just getting the leaves. Don't necessarily have to chop it up because we're gonna be chopping it up right here. But we are wanting to make sure that we don't get a lot of the stem in there, right? Because the stem doesn't really break down too much.
Right.
When we're gonna be serving it like this.
I don't have a food processor. What do I use? How do I do this?
You
Hand mixer?
You can use like the hand beater, yep,
Okay.
that'll work. You can, I mean, if
I like those the little whisk one too, that is electric. Good, will that?
the little hand
Yeah,
guy,
little hand
the
guy.
little hand wand works, but you're still gonna need a bowl
Bowl.
like this. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So I'm just trying to think, if people don't have this particular thing, like what could they use? So,
You could use your blender if you wanted to.
oh,
It's gonna be a little more tricky, so to speak.
did you have to fill, do the
Less,
filler?
yeah, well, just less at a time.
Okay,
And you're gonna have to add more liquid to it, just like for us. I am gonna blend this and then I think we're just gonna add a little liquid to it, like milk. I don't wanna add too much sour cream, because I don't want the sour cream
Take
to
over.
overpower, right? But for that. Well, we are gonna need some type of liquid. Milk will work. I'm gonna show you guys this one trick real quick.
Do you use heavy cream as well?
I would prefer heavy cream.
I have some.
Is what I would recommend, but you gotta remember that heavy cream is gonna help thicken it. It is a thickening agent, so if we wanna thin it out some, we're gonna wanna add like milk, because that's it. So what I'm gonna do is we'll add a little heavy cream. We'll then blend. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a little bit of our herb water that we've just been letting our herbs set in to help thin it out to the consistency we're looking for.
That herb water. I just don't know.
It's not in there.
Okay, just making sure.
Nope.
We'll throw that out when we're done.
There's-
I just wanna make sure.
So the reason being is, look, if this is the consistency you want, good. I think that it's a little too thick. We want it to be a little thinner, right? So we want it to have more of a creamier type texture than what we have here. So we're just gonna add a little bit of the water. Not a lot, because that's gonna thin it out quite a bit.
It does thin it out quite a bit.
Yeah, you see the texture change.
Medium.
So let's take a peek at this. I think that we're at a really a good consistency.
I do too.
Let's thin it out just a little bit more.
I'm surprised that it's not as white as I was thinking. I don't know why.
Well,
It's because
we
we
roasted.
roasted it.
Yeah, so
Okay.
all that char or
It created the
caramelization.
color. I guess I was just more surprised. But that's the goodness.
That
That's the
is
goodness of
the
it.
goodness. So we can see the texture, right?
Yes, definitely.
Definitely a lot.
It
So,
almost looks like a hummus texture, if you will.
yeah, a little thinner though, right?
thinner,
So it was at first a little bit thicker, but now that we thinned it out, it's got that light
Mhm.
fluffiness to it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think we can be a little, just a little thinner.
We can always be a little thinner.
Thinner.
Well, that's why we invest in the things that we invest in and try to ingest in the things that we need to ingest in, right? Let's do a little tiny bit of water.
We have one body.
That's right.
So you can see how smooth it is, right? That's what we're looking for.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have our taster. We're gonna see if we need to add any more salt or pepper.
Little salt.
Okay, a little salt, right?
I would say both salt and pepper.
Both. Salt's gonna help with enhance the
You
flavor.
really taste the garlic. That
Yeah.
tastes amazing. Mhm. That roasted garlic really stands out. All right, plating we go.
Plating. So as you know, I like to play with the food.
Mhm.
look at how delicious. Oh,
So with this part, I wanna make sure that we are getting some of that sage, right?
mhm,
So give us
absolutely.
a Good stir.
Smells delicious.
And all we're doing is putting a teeny tiny bit on there.
Right. A little goes a long way.
Yeah, 'cause we don't need a whole.
Wow. It's like kind of meal right there. Way to trade you. Okay.
Oh.
Finishing here, we got chef adding a few more items to our plate.
Just to then help dress it up, as if you want a little fresh lemon squeeze, there you have it. Our brown butter, sage, hand-seared sea scallops with a roasted cauliflower puree.
Wow, that is amazing. Now that
Ta-da!
is fine dining. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Now, when is our next class here? November 13th is our last and our final cooking event of the season, of our season.
Season 4 will be coming to an end.
It will
Oy
be.
vey.
With a nice spinach and artichoke stuffed spaghetti squash.
Wow. That sounds amazing.
And guys, we're gonna do a contest where anyone who turns in a recipe that we pick, we're gonna send you dinner for 12
Sounds,
instead of only 4.
sounds good.
3 groups. So if we pick your recipe, just say, hey, we want to see this, that, this, that. Give us some ideas. We'd love to hear from you. We can do a dessert night if you want to do a dessert night,
And
and we
we-
can do a kids' day.
Absolutely.
So we have choices. We have options for next season. We'd love ideas. So we'd love to hear what you guys want to
We
do.
want to know what you want to learn how to make. Something that you see in the restaurants or you seen on the cooking shows and say, I'd really like to make that. And then you're just scared or you're terrified
I
of
just,
messing it up.
yeah, Beth, what do you think of that one I just did with the cherries and cranberries on chicken? Oh, and I've been doing a lot of brining. Brining
This
is
huge piece.
huge.
Well, wonderful. You guys have a wonderful dinner. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
we'll see you next month. Have a great night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.